Welcome back to Alone and Unafraid, where we explore the intersections of everyday life, mental health, and mindset with ordinary people who have or are now facing incredible challenges. My name is Thad King, and I'm your host. Do you want to talk about September 11th, or what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. It's just an idea that popped in my head today.
You named it. It's Wing It Wednesday.
Yeah, it is fucking Wing It Wednesday. Welcome to Wing It Wednesday, where we fucking wing it, and it's Wednesday. Zero agendas, just winging it.
Well, Tyler's here riding shotgun. Tyler, welcome.
Hi.
So today is September 11th. So September 11th, 2001, everybody knows what happened then. That was 23 years ago. Where were you on September 11th?
I was in 9th grade in the, we called it the fishbowl. So it was for all the kids in the vocational center who weren't allowed to be around other kids. They put us in this fishbowl so all the other kids could spit on the glass and make fun of us. But that's where I was the morning of the planes hitting the tower, and they wheeled in that little famous cart and TV combination, and they turned on the news. And then we watched the second plane hit the tower.
Yeah, isn't that weird that the AV cart is like the harbinger of bad? I guess I was in 3rd or 4th grade when the Challenger blew up. And because Krista McAuliffe was a teacher, everybody in every class in the school was watching it on TV and like live. We watched that thing explode. I remember my teacher starting to cry, and then she turned the TV off, and we were like, "What happened? Are they going to be okay?" You know. And I think we can laugh about it now. But September 11th was. I was already in the Army then. I was at Fort Eustis at I think it's McDonald Army Hospital, and I was in processing the hospital. I remember getting on post that day. For whatever reason, I was just signing in, so we didn't go to PT. And I was actually riding with Stefano Guadagnolo from episode 9. We were carpooling together because we came from dive school. I remember like the line was taking really long, and I was like, "What is going on?" And there wasn't a gate guard at Eustis back then. We got up there, and there was like some MPs like checking IDs, and we were like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, why are you guys here?" Because September 11th, was it a Tuesday? I feel like it was a Tuesday, or
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
It might have been Monday. But anyways, the post was normally an open post where there was no guards. For that day, they actually had MPs out there. Actually, they were Department of Army civilian police, and they were checking IDs. I said, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, it took us 30 minutes in line to get on post, and the cop was like, I don't know, there's something going on in Washington, but we were told to secure the post. And I walked into the hospital, and it was still like those big, Sony Trinitron kind of TVs, not like flat screens didn't exist. I mean, I'm sure they did, but nobody had them. And I remember it was like chaos then. That I don't know if they did it in school, but they were talking like the Pentagon was under attack. I forgot what else there. Oh, the Capitol building had been attacked. The Trade Center had been attacked. And then I was sitting there. I remember everybody was in the waiting room of the hospital, like glued to the TV. And then the second plane flew in, and we were like, what is going on here? And then it was like chaos on base on the post. And I remember we were in processing, and they told us, everybody stop in processing, return to your units. If if you're here for an appointment, like your appointment's canceled, return to your unit. It was like my second day in that unit, and we showed up, and they're like, "Hey, everybody!" Like, I was in 7th transportation group because the dive company was inside a weird transportation like brigade or something, and like I hadn't got my TA-50 yet, which is the helmet and all that stuff, and they hurriedly issued. We went to CIF and got all our equipment, and basically we had to do like gate guard, and they had like roving patrols and stuff. But the funny thing about it is, like my dive team, we're divers, and they're like, "Here's your M16," and it was like a musket, the long barrel
the
M16s,
old one. Yeah.
the A2. And me and that guy Stefano had came from the infantry, so we were like, "What the fuck?" Like we had M4s and everything, and they put us out on the gate, checking people's IDs, and we had like a mirror thing to look under the car, but like zero training. There was
like here's your
no
tools.
training. They were
Godspeed,
just
good
like,
luck
"Hey,"
out there.
Yeah, they were like open trunks, like totally. I guess you could do it because it's a federal installation, but like totally warrantless.
Right.
We were
searches.
opening people's trunks, looking in people's hoods of their cars, like shining flashlights, and we were opening their glove box. Like we would search every single car that came on post. The crazy thing is, we didn't have any ammo. Like we just had these rifles, but no ammo. And we had
no bullets in the mags at all.
No, just magazines with no bullets, like nothing. And the crazy thing is, there was a Greyhound station on Fort Eustis, and you could take the bus. If you were in the Army, the Greyhound stop was on post, and it would drop the people off.
It's on the left, right? You go in that main gate, and it's right there on the left.
Yeah, the Greyhound bus would come through the gate. You'd have to board the bus, right? Because it would take too long to search the. This is the genius is the bus would take too long to search it. So put a soldier. They would put 2 of us on the bus. The bus would stop, open the doors. 2 of us would get on, full battle rattle, helmet, LBVs, the vest, M16s with no ammo. We would ride the bus to the bus stop, which was not. It's like 200 meters to the left,
Yeah.
And then when we get there, we would go through every single person's bag that was on the bus. And these are people like that are just. This is just a stop. It's not like this isn't their destination. These are some civilian people that got on the bus in Richmond, Virginia, or somewhere, and they're headed to
Norfolk,
South Carolina, and they just happened to make a stop at Fort Eustis. So like, I'm going through people's bags. I'm like, unzip that, open that, let me see this,
dumping it out like it's an inspection.
Yeah, like dump it out. Like there was no training, there was zero training for that, and we did that for like, gosh, I don't know. I think we did that for like 2 weeks, and then they finally were like, okay, it's probably safe. But the craziest thing about, I don't want to say crazy, but in those, do you remember those reports of like the Capitol had been attacked, or it might not have gotten out in school, but it was all over the news in Virginia.
We got whatever came on the news, and I don't know what news channel we were watching at school. And it's funny because I don't remember what we did next, right? Half of me wants to say maybe we got let go early. I don't remember the rest of the day, the school day. I just kind of remember it being like strange. And then my parents were split, but my mom and dad both had houses in the same town, or apartments in the same town. And we didn't have cable TV at my mom's house. But my dad's house was I'd walk home from school. My dad's apartment was on the way home, or on my way to my mom's house. And so I stopped there to grab some things. And she was there, which was weird. He wasn't there. She was watching the news. I don't know if she came home from work early or whatever. She wasn't working that day, but she was at my dad's place watching the TV, watching the news, and just crying like, uh-oh. And then, come to find out that was my future that we were watching on TV. But yeah, I don't remember what happened for the rest of the day. And I don't really remember specifics. I remember initially, because we didn't watch like forever. We probably watched the towers fall, and then that was it. We had to get on with math or whatever.
I remember watching those people jump out. Like I saw it live, those people jumping out of the buildings. Like I was like, what the like, holy shit, that dude just jumped. Did you see,
all of our teachers were Vietnam
What's that?
vets too. I said all of our teachers in the vocational center were Vietnam vets, right? Because they were there to handle the shitheads. So they were like dudes who were their flash to bang was real quick, and
Yeah.
so they were there to like manhandle kids who were out of control. And I remember our teacher was just kind of like, "We're going back to war," and I was like, "Oh fuck, here we go."
The crazy thing, there was so much crazy stuff with that, but my wife's grandmother actually died on September. I think she died on the 12th, or maybe it was the 13th. And we were in Virginia. She was in Buffalo, and all the flights were canceled. There was she died on the 12th, and there was no way she could get home to go to the funeral because all the flights were canceled. And at the time, DC was completely cut off. So we were trying to figure out alternate routing to go to New York from Hampton Roads. And it was such a insane time. And you know what, the as a diver, they actually sent us about a month after September 11th, maybe. We went down to the military ocean terminal in Sunny Point, North Carolina. Coincidentally, it's where I'm from, Wilmington, North Carolina. There's two military ocean terminals in the continental United States. There's one in Concord, California, and there's one in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's actually in Southport, North Carolina, but Southport's a little town that nobody knows about. We had to go. They load these ammo ships, these pre-positioned ships that they send out to Diego Garcia. Have you ever heard of these ships?
No, nope.
They got they're like 1,000-foot long freighters. They have a brigade's worth of tanks and Bradleys and HIMARS and artillery and all the ammo that goes along with it. And they pre-position them like in Diego Garcia, which is in the Indian Ocean. So if there's like a conflict, the army can like rapidly like unload a brigade's worth of stuff wherever it needs to go. I don't know if they do it anymore, but back then they did. And every now and again they'd have to come in and rotate the ammo out and do maintenance on the vehicles and stuff. But once they start loading the ship with ammo, it's a 24-hour, it's nonstop 24 hours until the ship is completely loaded, or at least it was during September 11th, because there was all these security concerns and they didn't know if critical infrastructure was going to get attacked. So they had this policy where the ship had to be loaded, and once they start, they didn't stop. So we had to go down there, and we had to have divers in the water 24 hours a day diving on the ship. We would work in teams of 2, and then a diving supervisor, and we would do security swims up and down the ship while it's in port. So they're loading the ship, right? This is probably more than you ever want to know about ships, but they have they have these intakes that they suck water in and under the water line, and the water cools the engines and stuff. And they're like running the bilge pumps and pumping things. So these intakes, they suck in like a cubic meter of water a second or something. I mean, it's a lot of water, right?
Yeah.
And if you're swimming, if you're, scuba diving beside that, it'll suck you into, it's like a grate, and it'll suck you right up next to it. And you'll run out of air and die. Yeah, no big deal. And so
whatever.
So the whole report was that Al Qaeda had because there was one of the ammunition ships caught fire, and there was all these reports about they had seen an Arab guy that had like attacked the ship, and this ship actually was sailing out of the port and caught on fire, and somebody said they saw somebody jump overboard and swim to shore. There was all these rumors of this crazy stuff happening, and so they wanted divers in the water because I guess they thought like Al Qaeda was going to swim up with like limpet mines and put a mine on a ship.
Yeah.
And anyways, long story long is we would follow the weld seams of the ship because it's at night. It's like 2 a.m. in the Cape Fear River. I grew up there. I never knew how strong the current in that river is. And so when the ship, like a big ship like that, when it's loaded down with fuel and equipment and stuff, it'll draft like 30, 40 feet of water. It was sitting at the bottom was 43 feet, and the ship was probably at like 35. Like the bottom of the ship was at 35 feet. I remember we were diving the next thing I know, my dive buddy, we were tethered together with a line. You can't talk obviously underwater unless you're wearing what they call an AGA mask or like a full face mask. We were just scuba, and so you do lines like tugs on the line to give, hey, come up or go, whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the line just got super tight, and I was like, what are you doing? And I'm like giving him the signal back, and all of a sudden, it's just pulling me, and I'm kicking as hard as I can, trying to, like, I don't know what's going on. Long story short, man, we get sucked under the ship, like keel haul. You know what keel hauling is?
No idea.
The keel of the ship is the center line, right?
Okay.
Like on the long axis.
Yeah.
And like back in the pirate days or whatever, if you screwed up, that you'd get keel hauled, where they'd tie you to a rope and make you go on the short axis around the ship, where all those barnacles and stuff were on the wooden ship, and it would like cut you all up, and then they'd bring you around. So you go underwater, they're pulling the rope with you tied to it, all under the barnacles on the bottom of the ship, and then out the other side. And if you came up alive, like, okay, you're back in the crew, man. You did your time. You did your
like
time.
The witches, right? Like,
yeah, like kind of the same concept.
You're innocent.
Like,
if you live through this, you're innocent.
Yeah.
I guess that's the opposite of witches.
Yeah. They're just bitches.
Yeah. If you live through this, you're a witch. But if you die, you're innocent.
Yeah, except the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But so we got like keel hauled. But I remember going under the ship, all the way under. And then probably when I was right under the ship, I was like, fuck. And so I didn't know what to do. So I hit my BC, the buoyancy compensator, and I inflated it. It has these quick release that you can just, this is not good. We're at 30, 40 feet of water, and I'm breathing compressed air. So I'm already below 1 atmosphere. I hit my BC. My dive buddy did the same thing, because now we're in an emergency. So now we're rocketing to the surface, but we've got compressed air. So, but we're seasoned divers, so we're exhaling. And I remember shooting out at like 2 a.m. in the middle of this river, which is that part of the Cape Fear River is really wide. And we're just heading out to sea. And, we only had chem lights, and we had, I think the genius of us was we had red chem lights maybe.
Yeah.
And red isn't that easy to see in the water at night. So we're like trying to wave our chem lights.
Yeah.
Eventually, one of the police boats, when our diving supervisor realized that we weren't coming up, he radioed the police, because they were in a little Zodiac, and they didn't see our bubbles anymore. So they called hey, you guys see anybody out there? And they're looking around in the river with their spotlight. And then they finally found us and came and picked us up, but we lived. But yes, September 11th, that whole thing, that was crazy. Most people don't realize right after September 11th, it wasn't too, do you remember the DC sniper? Did you ever remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was not that long after September 11th.
I don't know if it was just at my age, because, I was young, whatever 9th grade is that 14? The whole world changed. Everything about the whole world changed, right?
Yeah.
At least that's how it felt to me. It's like, all right, nothing, I knew it then. I was like, nothing's ever going to be the same. And then, put me on the road to war.
Because you came in the Army obviously you were in high school in September 11th, so you signed up. The war was already in full swing when you joined,
Yeah, I
right?
just had, I signed my initial contract because I took the extended route through high school. So I graduated when I was 19, as opposed to being a smart 18-year-old or a 17-year-old. Yeah, I graduated when I was 19. I signed my contract in December, 2005, I think is when I got through MEPS. And I had buddies who had left and gone to the Guard and come back to high school, finish up their senior year after basic training and all that other stuff. I had another buddy who had an older brother who's a year or two older than me. He went to the Marine Corps, and he was, I want to say, was that Urgent Fury? Was what, Fallujah 1 or 2?
Phantom Fury.
Phantom Fury,
yeah.
Urgent Fury is something else.
That was Grenada, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was Phantom Fury. Came back after that, right before I left for basic training. Well, had come back previously, but talked to him a little bit, and he actually ended up taking his life like 6-7 months ago. But yeah, so it was big in our community. I remember I had this kid that was in our school. I think both his parents were also in the Guard, and they deployed at one point when I was in high school. So it was a thing that followed me all the way through.
Yeah,
and then I got out and went full bore.
Yeah, that whole, when September 11th happened, I remember it had to be in October. I remember hearing some reports of SOF hitting back. They came out, hey, we're going to hit Afghanistan. Years later, I remember it had to be October or November, because I remember the Marines set up Objective Rhino, I think it was called. I remember that was late 2001, and then by the time I got to flight school, or we decided to invade Iraq, probably, what's that?
That was 2003.
It was the invasion kicked off in March, but probably mid 2002, I remember we all got called. All of our dive team, we had 4 dive teams, and we all got sent over to CIF and issued all desert stuff. And we were like, what's going on, guys? You want to tell us what's going on? They're like, just go get your desert gear. And we're like, are we going to Afghanistan? And and we were like, we're divers. Like, what are we going to, there's no water in Afghanistan. And we went out to Fort Hood to do a river crossing exercise with First Cav, and we did this big river crossing exercise, and they actually had like maps of Iraq, and we were like, what's going on here? And they're like, they didn't come out and tell us, but they were like, it was clear that it was the plan to invade Iraq. And I remember my first thought was, I was like, why would we invade Iraq? Wasn't that George Bush Sr.? Like, wasn't that his deal? And I was like, what do they have to do with September 11th? And then obviously we invaded Iraq.
The answer to your previous question was, I don't think it was anything to do with that.
Yeah. Well, the weapons of mass destruction.
Man, I don't know.
I got a funny story about that. Like, I don't think there was any real weapons of mass destruction, but there's a place called Muthana Bunker Complex that's northwest of Baghdad. Yeah. You ever been there?
No, I don't think
southwest of Balad and kind of southwest of Taji. It's actually due west of Taji. Southwest of Balad.
Like, embarrassingly, like I said, I've only been there twice. I have almost no idea where anything is in Iraq. Like, I know.
Yeah, that's how I am with Afghanistan.
Yeah. I know I can like draw a picture of Afghanistan with my eyes closed, but I don't know shit about Iraq.
I could go to Iraq right now and fly in a helicopter and navigate the whole country and never look, just by visually looking outside of like, okay, that's where that is. Because I just flew so much there. But this place, Muthana Bunker Complex, was where all the chemical weapons were stored. Yeah. And there's no doubt there was chemical weapons there, not on the scale that the intelligence community said. I don't know that it briefed an invasion, but I remember I was in the big army then. We picked this general up, and he was a Corps of Engineers general, and he had a PSD, a personal security detail, and they were contractors, and they were all in like navy blue camo. And I remember one of the general's aides told me, "Hey, when we're 5 minutes out, let me know. Just give me a heads up." Okay, cool, no problem. So the general's on the headset, and we're just kind of making small talk. And, "Hey, sir, we're 5 minutes out." "Okay, hey, thanks. Hey, thanks, chief." The crew, they take their headsets off, and they start putting on pro masks. And the crew chiefs are like, "Hey, these guys are putting on pro masks." And I was like, "What?"
And fuck that. Get me out of here.
We were like, "Why?" And we were like, "What the?" And then it's like all these bunkers, like an ASP, ammunition supply point, like a bunker complex.
Yeah.
I just thought I was dropping off people. Well, we land in the middle of these bunkers, these big cavernous bunkers. Yeah, dude, it was like where they store the VX gas and the mustard gas.
Right.
And
like ricin or whatever it's called.
yeah. And we didn't have any pro mask or anything. So I told the crew, like, hey, man, everybody just hold their breath and like don't talk. And
put your face in your shirt.
So we're like, yeah, the crew chiefs are trying to cover up with their t-shirts over their face. And
you
like,
think they would have told you, like, hey,
yeah,
guys.
You think, yeah.
Hey.
And then they're like, we had to go back and pick them up. Like, we dropped them off at 10 and we're supposed to pick them up at like 1500. I radio back. I'm like, hey, these guys got pro masks. What the fuck? Like, are we supposed to have, what are you doing? They're like, oh, they didn't tell us that. So, and of course, what did we do? We went back and picked them up and just held our breath.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's like the next best thing. Like, if you don't have a gas mask, you can just hold your breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, I think it's been scientifically proven time and time again.
It works in like every James Bond movie or, all those movies. But
and plus, you were a diver, so you could hold your breath forever. Yeah. I'm almost positive.
I was good. I mean, clearly I didn't die. So
yeah. But the crew chiefs didn't make it out.
Yeah. Everybody's expendable.
That's true.
I mean, there's so much crazy shit now that I really think about it. So my wife was in the Army, and we were in Korea at the time, and this would have been 2004. Iraq is just starting because the invasion, it was they were shooting shit up, and then remember there was kind of like a lull, like. Remember the mission accomplished?
21 days to Baghdad, right? And then everyone's like, good. He's on the ship. He's saying, fuck yeah, we did it. And I'm watching TV shows about war and how cool it is. And that when you get out of high school, you can't wait to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I remember that time.
We were in Korea. My wife got a letter. It said, recall to active duty. She'd been out of the Army for at that point, she'd been out for 4 years. So, or it was 3 years she'd been out. And she's like, hey, I got this. And we had a 15-month-old daughter.
Is this right around the time like the whole stop loss thing was going on?
Yeah, this was the stop loss.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, and I was a warrant officer, and she was technically enlisted. I mean, she was out of the Army, but she was still an E4. So I just went to my commander. I was like, hey, my wife's out of the Army. Like, what is this? And so, long story long is the 8th Army Sergeant Major, since she was enlisted, got involved and called back to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And was like, and because of the mail took so long to get to Korea, we got the letter and she was supposed to report in 10 days. And we were like, we have a 15-month-old kid. Like, what are we going to do with our daughter? And because I was forward deployed to Korea, and she can't leave the baby with me because in Korea, you're supposed to be able to go to war tonight. They call back to Fort Jackson, and the 8th Army Sergeant Major, like, this is not like a chump, this is a pretty high-ranking dude, calls back to Fort Jackson, talk to some captain, and they're like, yeah, well, she has to report. And the Sergeant Major's like, hey, look, you understand that you've got, a pilot just out of flight school. We spent a lot of money on him. They don't have a family care plan because she's not in the Army anymore. Right. And you're calling her back to active duty, because most people don't know, if you enlist for 4 years, you have a 4-year inactive ready reserve where you can be recalled. And
it's 8 years total. So whatever
years total,
whatever your enlistment was, and then the remainder is you're just kind of on the list waiting to get plucked again.
Yeah. So, and it's all the fine print that, because see, your generation of the Army joined the Army to kick ass and fight and win wars.
Slap babies.
Yeah. My generation, a lot of those dudes joined for college money. I wanted to join for apple pie in America and to do cool things. But there was a lot of people that just joined just to, hey, I'm getting free college, so
there was still like an odd amount on that. There was still an odd amount of people who joined for college. You're like, silly shit. I remember in basic training, they were showing us videos from Iraq to kind of get us pumped up to, do whatever, bayonet that dummy or whatever. And so we're just watching shit blow up and things happen. And I remember this one kid just started crying, like sobbing, ugly cry. And drill sergeant's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And he's like, I didn't sign up for this. And he's like, the fuck did you think you were signing up for? Right? Like, why didn't, because he was a cook or something. He's like, I didn't just sign up to kill anybody. It's like, well, and again, this is 2006, right?
Yeah, like
So
we've been doing it for 3
for
years,
a few
dude.
years.
Yeah, actually
and
4.
and the shittiest parts of Iraq, are just kind of like coming to an end, right? Or picking back up. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't the lull like in 2008 and beyond. It was still fucking chaos. And it's like, man, why did you even show up? How did you not know that this is what you were getting into? I was just blown away by those people who were like, oh, well, this isn't what I signed up for. I was like, what the fuck did you think you were doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so but sometimes people are just clueless. Yeah.
I don't know. Weird to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty clueless, but I guess not that clueless comparatively.
Yeah. The Sergeant Major, the 8th Army Sergeant Major said, hey, look, my recommendation is you get on a plane with your daughter, she's talking to my wife, report to Fort Jackson with a 15-month-old baby. They're going to put you in a hotel for the night, and then they're going to tell you, have a good day the next day. The crazy thing is, I remember we were talking, and she's like upset and freaking. We're both really upset because it said for Operation Iraqi Freedom, and here I am, like I'm active duty and I want to fight, and she's out raising our kid, and she's the one that gets called.
She's on her way, and you're not even getting selected yet.
Yeah, like
you
I'm
guys
in
aren't
Korea,
even up next.
and she was a pack clerk. I was like, hey,
Army.
Did you? I was like, have you gotten your period yet? It's like, shouldn't you already have your period? And she was like, oh yeah. Come to think of it, I'm late. And I was like, what? And so I was like, go get a test. And we went to the PX and got a test. It was positive. I said, okay, go to the hospital and get the Army to give you a pregnancy test. Yeah, and it turned out she was like 10 weeks pregnant or whatever, or however many weeks pregnant, and we had no idea. And so we had to submit the pregnancy test, and then the Army was like, okay, after the baby's born, you have 2 months to report. And we were like, are you fucking kidding me? So our second daughter was born on April 25th, 2005. So when she was born, we had to tell the Army when she was born and send that back to Fort Jackson. We got another letter that said, okay, you have to report on June 25th, 2005. Well, my wife came in, she enlisted in the Army in like September of 97 or something. So she would have reported on June and then got out in like September. So
right.
We were like, hey, you're going to upend our lives with 2 kids for 2 months. And then the Army said, okay, you're released. The whole thing was just crazy. So anyway,
it went on far longer than it should have.
Well, the stop loss was insane. There was guys in my company in 2006 that were supposed to get out of the Army in like June of 2006. Battalion deployed in July. And so they stop lost them, so they couldn't ETS out of the Army. And I don't know if you remember, but if you were stop lost, you were supposed to get $1,000. Was it a day or a month?
Probably
do you remember
a month.
That?
I can't imagine they would do $1,000 a day.
It was something crazy. Like you were supposed to get an additional
$30,000 a month. I don't think the Army would do that.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think you're right. It's probably a month. It was supposed to be an additional $1,000 a month for every month.
Probably turned out to be $1,000 a year.
Well, then they stopped it because they had so many people that they had to pay out. They're like, oh shit, we can't afford this. And so I remember there was a kid named he's actually works for Bell Helicopter now, Dan Gentry. He was stop lost, and I remember. So he got stop lost he should have been out of the Army before we deployed. And he had done the Afghan trip the year before. So my battalion did Afghan for 12 months, came home for like 11 months, and then deployed to Iraq for supposed to be a 12-month deployment. Then we got extended to make it a 15 month. So this kid, he was supposed to get out in like June, gets stop lost, gets to Iraq, goes all the way through Iraq, and we were literally on month 11, 10 or 11. I think we were month 10, and we were already doing the RIP process with third cab was going to rip with us. And my wife found out, everybody's family found out because, what was the Secretary of Defense back then?
Was it Rumsfeld?
Rumsfeld. Yeah, because I remember we were hearing all these rumors about getting extended, and I remember our battalion, we had a formation, the battalion commander is Frank Tate. Guys, that's just a rumor. There's no way they're going to extend us for 90 days. That's just not going to happen. And literally the next morning, my wife emailed me flipping out, and she's like, call me immediately. And I call her, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, they're extending you for 90 days. And I was like, what are you talking about? The battalion commander just said that's not happening. She's like, turn the news on. And I went in our company's CP and turned the TV on, and it was like AFN or whatever. It was like all active duty troops in Iraq will be extended 90 days regardless of their time remaining. So we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then we got 3 months flopped on. So that guy Dan, we had 2 or 3 guys like that in our company, but Gentry ended up staying that 15 months. And then because of like pressure on the force or whatever that was called, you had to do 120 days stabilization at your duty station. So you did 15 months in Iraq, and then you couldn't move or couldn't get ETS or do anything, and you had to do 120 days to like reacclimate to not war. So he ended up doing like an additional, 19 months past when he should have got out. And
gross.
He was supposed to get $1,000 for every month. He ended up getting paid like $2,000, I think, and then they stopped it, and he never saw a dime. Yeah.
They laughed because that's typical.
Classic Army.
Yeah, classic Army. Yeah, whenever you owe them something, they'll take it next Tuesday. But whenever they owe you something, it's probably not coming. And that bleeds into the VA. Yeah, dude, it was a wild time. It was definitely something else. It was, I think I knew what I was getting into when I left, so that was good. Just because we had so many people around us who had gone and come back.
I always think on September 11th, I kind of reflect, and I used to, what's about to come out of my mouth is not popular. This is not going to be a popular statement. And I don't mean any disrespect by this at all. I had one of my best friends in the world was killed in Iraq, and I miss him every day. A lot of guys, Kyle Jackson was one of my best friends, was killed. Tuck Church, Keith Heitman. That was that Kiowa crew that I was telling you that got shot down. Gosh, Veldon Locklear was an infantry guy. Sean English was in my dive team. He was the 544th dive team commander. He was killed in Iraq. So many guys I know died there, and everybody's like, "Hey, say their names. Remember September 11th." And here's the unpopular thing I'm going to say. This isn't meant to dishonor their memories at all. Is sometimes I think it's okay to forget that. That was not that it's okay to don't forget the people, but forget the war. Like,
there's a time for moving on, right? There's obviously remembrance, but there's not time. Like, there's a difference between remember and dwell, right? And I think a lot of people get stuck in dwell as a form of air quotes remembrance when, like, it took me probably Veterans Day. I didn't really think about September 11th until like 2021. Like after the initial one, and then going, joining the Army and all that, I'd never thought about it again until like I was out of the Army, and then it was the 10-year anniversary.
Well, you were out after the 10-year anniversary, right?
Is that 20 years? 20-year anniversary, excuse me.
Yeah, 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, I'm older than I think I am.
The Afghan withdrawal was in 21. So it was 20 years, almost to like,
it was like the month prior, wasn't it? When they fucking botched the shit out of that thing.
Yeah.
So I was pissed off anyway. And then I was even going through like my own shit. So I was in my whole downward spiral. They fuck up Afghanistan, zero response. The 20th anniversary of September 11th. And I was like, okay, I've never really thought about it, kind of since the initial day, like on the grand scheme of how it affected my life in this country and the world.
It changed the trajectory of all of our lives. And I kind of think back when I say, like, people say never forget, and you see these folks that post stuff about 9/11 that nobody remembers, nobody forgets. I will tell you that I lived on 50th Street in Newport News in the Shipyard. The day, probably within a week of September 11th, every house on my street had an American flag flying, and everybody had those United We Stand stickers. The problem is that was a great unifying moment, but when this is how you live in a society that is doing it right. If you have the ability to be resilient and overcome those things like war, and you don't, and you move on, and life goes on, and your country recovers, that's like a good thing. It's not, you don't want to stay in that dwell period where there's resentment and hatred. And can you imagine the World War II vets if they hated Germans or hated Japanese? I'm sure there's those guys out there, like, no doubt about it.
That's funny because I heard that similar sentiment. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about September 11th, and they were talking about this exact same thing, literally, and kind of like, hey, like, yeah, sure, I get remember. He's like, but sometimes it's it's time to move on, right? And that's not like a negative thing, but like you want to be able to, like what you're saying, you want to be able to move on, right? Because we're still looking forward. Could you imagine? And his example was, could you imagine if everybody was still mad at Japan about Pearl Harbor? You know what I mean? Like, and so, and granted, we're still kind of in the throes. Maybe not us specific. Well, I guess we kind of are in minor ways with people who are still out there doing things, but we're still kind of in this, I don't know if I'll call it a war, conflict, right?
It's low intensity.
It flares up across the world, and in Israel and Hamas and all that shit. Like, it's still kind of an active thing with the same groups of people that were there on September 11th. So it's kind of still going on.
Yeah, and I don't. It's the sign, when a generation doesn't remember, it's not that the generation doesn't care. It's because we did it right. Does that make sense? Like my son probably doesn't understand September 11th because our generation went, and I'd argue that we probably lost. We won the battles, but we probably lost the war.
Absolutely.
In Afghanistan for sure.
Yeah.
My kids don't really understand any of that. Our country was able to bounce back, and that's why they don't know any of that. So I kind of say it's a good thing that people get mad. Nobody's remembering and blah, blah, blah. Like, man, that's a sign that we kind of did it right. That nobody, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. Because I think, like, the big thing about, we'll call it terrorism, is they want to disrupt your way of life, and they sure as fuck did. And they sure as fuck are still doing it every day. But to your point of doing it right, like, we're still able to go about our business on a general level, and kind of, I'd say a lot of Americans, I don't want to say weren't impacted, but didn't feel, maybe they felt the emotional impact, sure, Patriot Act and all this other shit, and you have to stand in line at airports. People who still complain about taking their fucking shoes off at an airport blow my mind. Like, well, that's not a surprise anymore.
My thing with TSA, I don't know, man. The TSA, are they fucking really doing anything? Like,
no, they're not.
Like it's just that part.
But like, my point to that, real quick, is in defense of that statement, is like, it's still happening. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you're gonna do it.
There's still it's
coming. Well, I'm just even taking your shoes off. You have to do it. It's not a fucking surprise when you walk up to the conveyor belt when someone's like, "Oh, I have to take my shoes off." Like, yeah, 20 years now.
I'm pre-check, man. I don't mess
with
the
pre-check line is always longer than the Gen Pop line now, because everybody's pre-check.
Dude, no way. At Orlando, you can, if you're pre-check.
Dude, when Don and I were flying, he would stand in line in pre-check, and I would just walk up to the thing and pass him.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
He's like, "You're not pre-check?" I was like, "No, I'm an idiot." And then I like walk by him. Like, who's the dummy now?
Yeah. I never have a problem with the pre-check line in Orlando. Although when I came back through JFK a while last year, through immigration, we almost missed our flight. It was like 3 hours because the line was just ridiculously long. And then if you had global entry, you could cut the line immediately. So, dude, we signed up for global entry that day because I'm never doing that again. But
fuck yeah.
And I'm not talking about, just to go back, I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm not talking about those guys. Like the people that are supporting Hamas, that the Americans that are supporting Hamas, I'm like, holy shit, what is wrong with you? Like,
right.
These guys are legitimate terrorists that everybody knows they're terrorists, but I think people, especially white people, want some machine to rage against. And I'm not.
Well, they've had it so good for so long that they feel like they have to make a stand because they haven't had to make a stand.
I don't even know if it's that they haven't had it so good. It's you're really not allowed to weigh in on an opinion on race of anything.
Sure.
So like this is their way to get some street cred or clout with, oddly enough, the point is Hamas is 100% terrorist. Like no doubt about it. I think that the fact that our kids don't understand, and I'm separating these college kids out that are those people are probably the same Antifa folks that are just whatever is counterculture and against the grain to get back at mom and dad is what they're going to do.
Where do you stand on conspiracies about September 11th?
Yeah, that's hard, man, because so the conspiracy about the buildings coming down and how they fall and all that stuff, I've watched all the YouTubes and I can't sift through some of it sounds legit, some of it doesn't. I want to believe that we would never do that to ourselves, and I can't for the life of me get to a motive. The only motive I could get to was to draw us into a protracted war so the military industrial complex could make money. And I used to not be a believer in the military industrial complex. I didn't really think that was a thing until I started working for the military industrial complex, and it's totally a thing.
Absolutely is.
So
it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's super gross. Like
it fucking bums me out. Because I think there are some conflicts worth fighting, right? I think there are some inevitable wars that might need to happen, right? As much as I don't want them to happen, and if I wish we'd never had to do them, you know what I mean? I think anybody who's ever been kind of feels the same way. But God damn it, I hate the contracting side. I hate the money that gets poured into it because it really takes away from the people dying on the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you kind of get, and we lived it, you kind of get, trick fucked is not the right word, but you believe that
just ignorant and young.
The thing you're doing is I remember we did a hit in Iraq once on, remember the guy that was, you might not remember this, but the president of Iraq was a Shia Muslim. I forgot that guy's name. He was a Shia dude. He had some political rivals. We did a hit on a guy that was a political rival to this Shia leader of Iraq. The guy's name was al-Maliki, was that guy's name. So American soldiers with Iraqi partner forces went to schwack a guy that was a political rival to the incumbent power base in Iraq in order to maintain order in the country. So what part of democracy, and I had a real issue with that. I remember going to my commander and saying, hey, why are we, this guy's a political rival. He's not, he's not funding terrorism. Why are we going to schwack this guy? And we still did the hit anyway. I was like, what the fuck am I? That was probably the first point that I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? And then you don't want to acknowledge that you're a cog in the machine that you have no control over. And then that was probably in 10, I'm guessing 9 or 10.
Okay.
And
so late in the game then for Iraq.
Yeah. This had been this had been a while. And then I remember when Benghazi happened, that whole thing, General Ham was the AFRICOM commander, and I forgot the Navy guys, the Navy admiral, but I'm pretty sure they both got relieved because they were going to reinforce the image. There's so many conspiracy theories with that too, but the September 11th conspiracy theory, I don't want to believe that's true.
And I
guess I'm like 80% it's not true and 20% it's plausible.
Well, realistically, right? If it was an inside job, this, that, and the other, you're never going to know. You know what I mean? You can pretend that you can put up, throw up your arms and say, "Oh, I can't believe it," this, that, and the other. But there's not enough. I don't say facts. There's just not enough out there for me to be like, this is 100%. If you don't have a dude with a picture placing these, mines and shit or C4 on the structure itself, and you don't have like a selfie of this guy saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing today," it doesn't change what happened that day, right? And us, the plebs, will never know anyway if it was. So I try to keep my head like it's as it was told. I think there's enough, and I think what a lot of people who rail against how it happened don't understand the hatred that this group of people feels for us, and that it's been brewing for a long time. And I think that's where people lean on that because they don't believe that's true. And maybe that's propaganda that I've bought into, right? But I just, it's been a long road with these kind of organizations. So I think there's been a lot of hate for a long time for us.
Well, I mean, I always tell people if I was an Iraqi or an Afghani, I would 100% be the Mujahideen. Like, I would be a freedom for sure.
Absolutely.
And, in war, like, I always thought I would like really hate the enemy, and it's kind of like there's some level of respect there where I'm like,
with you know, to a certain extent, killing civilians and cutting people's heads off is really not my jam.
Yeah,
that's never been something I was
beyond,
into.
Okay, you went too far.
Yeah, I just
too far. But I can kind of see. But to answer your question is, I don't want to believe that, but I don't. We should do one on conspiracy theories.
I think we should. So if anybody who listens to this is or has a friend who likes flat Earth stuff, or knows Bigfoot personally, or anything about the Denver airport.
Oh, dude, I've been to the Denver airport.
Oh, I've been there too. I just want to know, like,
that's legit. That's the gateway to hell.
Yeah.
Those statues are super weird, though. You got to admit, they're really weird.
It's an odd place. I'll give it that. But we want some professional experts about the moon landing. What other ones?
My wife's an expert on the moon landing.
We got to get her on then. Hey, Patty, tell me about the moon.
So she is convinced it was not real. But I don't know if she's joking though, or if she's serious. But she's been saying that she doesn't believe it for a while now.
Dang.
So, what was that movie? Capricorn 1? It was like, that's a really old movie.
No, I never saw it.
And then they had that Fly Me to the Moon one. That's recent.
It's one of my favorite songs.
Bigfoot's real, man. You got
I ran into this dude. I was selling guns out in Colorado at this little shop just outside of Denver. And I used to talk a lot of shit to people in that shop because I don't know. I don't like people's bullshit, I guess, when it comes down to it. Like this, for example, this one dude came in. He's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a charging handle for my AR." And I was like, "All right, cool. We got this wall of charging handles over here. And look, they even have neat little pictures on them so you can show everybody how cool you are." And he's like, "Huh, what?" I was like, "Oh, this one's got a Spartan helmet. And you can show everybody how tough you are." And he was like, "A Spartan?" And I was like, "Yeah, a nation of warrior men." And he looked at me and he was like, "It's a nation of men that slept with other men." And I kind of turned towards him and I was like, "As men should." And he was kind of upset and left. He didn't buy a charging handle from me because he doesn't like men sleeping with other men. And
but I would have taken that the other way. I would have been like, if he said a nation of men that sleep with other men, and you said what you said, I would have kind of laughed because It's like the parody of if you stamp a Spartan helmet in, like before the movie 300,
right?
Most people didn't even know what the Battle of Thermopylae was or
Correct.
what the
Nobody
Spartans.
did. Not most people.
Yeah,
Nobody did.
yeah. So now you have Molon Labe over everything
Yep.
A Company and
Rangers.
so like all of a sudden you're hard now. Like yeah. But
So yeah, same
it
shop.
still looks cool though.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I think, and it detracts from how cool it is. Like I grew up reading comic books, and I loved the Punisher as a child in the '90s. Right, he was one of my favorite characters, and so I joined the army, and I kind of had a Punisher patch, and I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. I love comic books. This is neat. Whatever. And then Punisher thing became like it's the fucking Spartan helmet, right? So everybody had it, and I was like, this is fucking dumb. So I took it off because I didn't want to be that guy with my Punisher skull everywhere. Anyway,
who the first guys to really do the Punisher helmet in the military was?
Who's that?
I'm pretty sure it was 24th Infantry Regiment.
Was it?
Yeah, they were out of Fort Lewis, and they were a striker brigade, striker guys. The deployment in 04 to 05, I think, is when they were. Dude, they had like a shit ton of like dudes killed, and then like I don't know how many Purple Hearts they had, but a lot of guys injured, and they were huge in Mosul and the fighting up there, and they just started schwacking, dude. That guy, you might remember him, Colonel Carilla. Now he's General Carilla.
No.
Do you remember him? He was, gosh, I want to say he was the battalion commander of 124 back then. I'm pretty sure he was a Delta guy before that. No, he was a Ranger. He was from 75th Ranger Regiment. Gosh, I feel like maybe he was 124 was the guys that I'm pretty sure started stenciling that on their body armor.
Yeah.
And they put it all over their strikers. And then there was some Navy SEALs out in Ramadi that started copying them. Yeah. And then it just kind of like got out of control.
Yeah. Well, I want to say the Punisher was a Navy SEAL back in Vietnam. It was part of the story somewhere. I could be wrong about that.
What was that guy? Frank
Castle.
Frank Castle, yeah. Well, the Punisher's Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the Punisher is like a realistic.
Yeah, he was never a superhero. He was just like a lunatic.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to kill bad guys, and I need to do it a lot.
It's almost like the guy from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Casey.
Yeah. He's just got like a fucking cricket bat.
Yeah, no, it's a hockey stick.
Well, he had both. Remember he was playing cricket in the movie.
Oh yeah, and he had golf clubs too.
Yeah, he used anything that he could just club things with.
Yeah, I feel like he went to Play It Again Sports or like a pawn shop.
He's like, give me your cheapest wood items.
We can't buy guns in New York City, so
hell no.
You can get.
You could stab people in the 80s though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the Bigfoot thing. Yeah, so I'm selling this shit to this guy, and he's like looking at this rifle. I was like, oh yeah, dude, you can take this and you can go hunt Bigfoot. And he was like, well, actually, and I was like, oh fuck, like this dude actually hunts Bigfoot. How did I find the one dude to make that joke to? And he started telling me about how they go to this little camp somewhere. He's like, yeah, there was 50 or 60 of us, or I forget how many he said, and we camp out because this is where the last place he was sighted. And then it was real quiet in the middle of the night, like maybe 2:00 in the morning. And we heard him pounding on trees. And, we went out to go find him. I was like, you mean to tell me you don't think anybody in that 60, 70 people crew was there to troll you? And you think Bigfoot showed up to where everybody decided to camp that day? And he's like, yeah. And he went on, dude, he talked to me about
Bigfoot.
For about an hour. But anyway, I'm a believer. So I want to talk to somebody about Bigfoot.
Yeah. I want to see... I want to hear about aliens and dimensions, and my favorite one to talk about is simulation theory.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
That one's a good one. And
dude, did you know? I think this is true. Maybe somebody fact checked whoever this is or whatever. Stonehenge as we see it was reset. So they had it all, I guess when they found it, all the stones had fallen over, and like 3 or 4 different times throughout the last 200 years or whatever, they had, or not 200 years, I forget. They had to reset the stones. So they're like set in cement. They dug them out hoisted him up, put him in cement, and then reset Stonehenge. There's pictures of it.
Huh.
I think the last time was like in the 60s.
So what's it look like? What did it originally look like? The same.
I think they were just the stones were falling over, and they just kind of like, oh, I think this is it.
Oh.
So it's just like a stones in a field, and then they used machinery to set them back up.
Well, I mean, the aliens probably had machinery when they put them there, so
they did. That's where they got the machines from.
Yeah.
Home Depot's got an alien machinery.
Carilla was the Ranger Regimental commander. That's where he was. I was thinking Delta, but he was a regimental commander. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, man, I think so this was just Wing It Wednesday, so it's September 11th, so
that's it.
That's all we got.
Yeah, that's it. I'm tapped out.
But we're going to be back next week with full episode. We've got, I think the one we recorded yesterday was really good. Just a sneak preview. We've got Benjamin Lee. He is a retired EOD tech from the Air Force who has started the first ever non-profit solar energy company. And we're not talking about the kind of solar panels you put on your house. We're talking utility scale solar energy. His company is called Solar Security Net. He will be on next week's episode, so you're going to want to tune in and listen to that. I thought it was a good conversation. What did you think?
Yeah, I had fun talking to him. I think it was definitely enlightening.
He's a smart dude, for sure.
And a good talker. And I think we got a lot of other cool things coming down the pipe, too. I'm excited for a lot of the stuff that's coming up.
Yeah.
We got some cool people to talk to, cool things.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really subscribe, but follow.
Yeah. But if you can subscribe, then definitely do it.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
5-star rating.
Yeah. And also still raising money for the Allied Forces Foundation. So more to follow on that. And we might be able to get some people around to talk about that and what the trip is going to look like. So stay tuned.
All right. Let's do it. We'll be back next week for really good episodes and more stuff. Just kind of getting a palate cleanser after Jeremy Thibodeau's episode, which was last week. And just wanted to kind of lighten it up with some bullshit sessions, which we got a little serious about
wanted to lighten it up
11th.
with September 11th.
What's that?
Wanted to lighten it up with September 11th.
Yeah. Bold move, Cotton. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.